Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Caption Out Loud podcast. It's been a lot since the last season, but we are so grateful to be here. We actually have a special guest today. Actually, my family, Miss Vonda, Minister Vonda Reives. She is also a family nurse practitioner, a business owner of Northmore Family Practice down in Robbins, North Carolina. So grateful to have you here. Thank you for taking the time to be with us.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. I just want to go right into, so how has your life changed, work life, since pre-COVID up until this point?
It's drastic.
Really?
Now, in order to keep the clinic safe for not only the patients, but also for the staff, because if we're sick, then, we can't work. And with me, I'm an independent provider, so, I don't have any backup. And so, so work life, we see only in the office, we see well patients and complete physicals and other unrelated illnesses, acute illnesses, maybe poison ivy or something like that.
Sure.
Cuts and bruises and anything that if you have any symptoms of that could be related to COVID, cough, fever, body aches, pink eye, sore throat, any of those headaches, unexplained headaches, we see all those patients by telehealth.
Okay.
And so in that county, they have a drive-through testing center. So we send those patients to the drive-through testing center after we see them by telehealth in order to get tested. And then we follow up with them depending on the results of their tests.
Okay. Awesome.
And so not only am I seeing patients in the office, so I'm breaking in between to see patients by telehealth, and that's a very different routine. And so also, what's been an adjustment for the patients is having to wear a mask, because I mandate wearing masks in the clinic at all times over your mouth and your nose.
Right.
And so that has been a challenge.
Yes.
Hang all the way down.
I'm like, what if it's not
You
doing
been a
it?
witness lately?
I got one hole.
Yeah. And also social distancing between the staff. So in the front, it's a big area, and so there's two people there, but they sit on opposite sides of the room, and then the other three of us, we each are in a different room.
Okay. Got it. To keep them safe. Okay.
As the pandemic affected the number of patients that you see per day? Yeah,
in the beginning, nobody wanted to come in the clinic because they felt like that was where COVID was.
Right.
They thought that's where we see the COVID patients at, and so business really dropped off in the beginning. I mean, we came, to almost a screeching halt, and that's when, the PPP loans, we didn't get a loan with the first round.
Really? Wow.
We applied as soon as it came out, and we didn't get it with the first round. And I was really upset because I'm like, okay, this is a small rural town, and you're gonna turn down the family doctor in this town.
Yeah.
So serving the community. And so.
But the steak and shit got down the road, like.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Right.
Right.
That's true.
Right.
Keep them burgers for
And Ruth Chris.
All it was coming.
Exactly.
That's right.
Yeah. We voiced our concerns with the bank.
Good.
And
Kinda essential.
so we did get the loan with the second round of funding, and so that carried us through. And so now we still have people who are reluctant to coming into the office, and we just try to assure them that we keep the office clean and safe, and we do not see patients with symptoms in the office. And so, so that's reassured them, and so we've been very fortunate so far, and plan to continue that way.
That's right.
Amen. And
Right
so,
now.
so that's how it's changed as far as work goes. But also it's been really stressful, as well, because there are people who are coming in with stress and job losses and that kind of thing. But also, it's been stressful because I am a sole provider in the clinic, and because I want to stay safe for my family and my patients and everybody else, I don't go nowhere.
Right, right.
I sometimes come home on Friday afternoon. I don't go back out until Monday morning.
Yeah.
I do things. I keep busy around the house. Of course, I keep, there's a lot to do, and I read, and
The meals be popping.
yeah, I cook. Everybody, yeah.
I've been grateful for the COVID case. Praise the Lord for the COVID case.
Thank you, Lord. Oh, yes, God. Thank you. Shama, yes, should have bought Vonda. Yes, Lord.
Yeah, my family's benefited from that.
That's right.
Yeah, and so and I love to walk, so
That's
so.
good.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, have you noticed of any other symptoms, well, not symptoms, but sicknesses that are high other than COVID that other people should be concerned with, like flu or anything like that?
Well, it's going to be interesting how this all plays out come
Right.
flu season, because it's,
Right.
what I'm doing in preparation, I'm stacking up PPE for one.
Yes.
Because, there's no telling, because when COVID hit, we couldn't get any PPE. There was a shortage, and, you order, 3 boxes of gloves, and one may come or one may not come. And a lot of things were on back order, and so we were having a hard time getting PPE. The other thing is, I'm encouraging all my patients to get their flu shots early. So I recommend, the really high-risk patients getting theirs in late September, and everybody else to get theirs in early October, because we want to be able to distinguish the flu from COVID.
Right.
So one thing we can say, well, you had your flu shot, so this probably is not the flu. To be able to say that, getting a flu shot doesn't 100% guarantee, but that cuts that down a whole lot and takes that out of the equation when you're trying to evaluate a patient.
Sure.
And trying to tease out whether this could be COVID or not.
Okay.
And so, also, the other thing that's been a issue is with people not wanting to come in because of the fear of COVID. We can't do a lot. By telehealth, we can see the patients and make sure they get their medicines, but we can't do their vital signs, and you can't draw their blood.
Right.
So when people are on medications, we need to monitor your kidneys, your liver,
Right.
make sure, everything's functioning well. And we also want to draw your levels for your cholesterol and your diabetes to make sure, what you're taking is effective and in controlling the situation. And so, with people not wanting to come in for that, those things are left unmonitored. And so, telehealth has worked well and been a convenience. But some things just can't be done at a distance. And also, we have the threat. We got, an email with all the insurance companies that are going to be stopping telehealth
Really?
and not paying for telehealth anymore.
Oh, really?
And I don't know what's going to happen with that, but we can't do that right now.
Right. Yeah.
And and that's a problem. They were talking about stopping the end of July,
Mm.
Wow.
and with flu season coming around, it's really needed. And, and I feel like, and I hate to take everything to that, but it is. I feel like if our government and our leaders in government were behind this and quit treating COVID like it's some kind of hoax and it's just going to disappear magically one day, and get behind this and support the medical staff and support, the efforts out there to try to contain this and to treat it and to manage patients, we would have the resources that we need. We wouldn't be dealing with the threat of not having telehealth, during a global pandemic,
Absolutely,
which has been a great tool.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
They just running things by the seat of their pants. So they turn around and just like, well, that didn't work. Throw some bets at the wall.
Yeah.
You know? And like for them to be cutting this stuff, and it seems like they're not paying enough attention to what's going on that side of the fence of the medical field. Like, how are these things getting paid for? They're just worrying about, well, let's just slow it down from everybody just going, and stop going to get care so they could worry about what the numbers say, and this is not the way to go.
Yeah.
It's not the way to go.
Yeah.
So I heard you say something. You said pink eye. So pink eye is
Yes.
a symptom of COVID.
Yes. I'm gonna go through some of the symptoms that are
Please,
not
yes.
not known as much. Sore throat. Okay. Yeah. Sore throat, pink eye, some rashes.
I heard
Yeah.
About that.
Yeah. And so
I read an article about some COVID toes. What's COVID toes?
I heard something about that, but I haven't run across the COVID toes yet.
What is COVID toes?
I don't know. I think it's they having some kind of vasculitis, where the feet change colors, but
That's the case. A couple of my uncles done had COVID.
Lord have mercy.
You see that? Yeah, that's COVID. That's gotta be something. I don't know what it is. It's not COVID. That ain't COVID.
yeah, but pink eye is a big one. We've had several patients who have come in with pink eye that tested positive.
Wow.
Yeah.
Thank God.
What are like some of the main things like to really watch out for, like in the early stages? Because once it gets to that point, the fever and the loss of taste and the loss of smell, those are the main things we hear about the most. What is those earlier signs of COVID?
Well, the thing about it is, what's been so strange about this disease is that everybody gets different
I was about to
symptoms.
say it's different for everybody.
It's different for everybody. I had, one lady, young girl. She was like, I think I got sinus, and we did a telehealth visit, and so I treated her for a sinus infection. She had runny nose, nasal congestion, that kind of thing. Well, she called me back like 3 days later. She said, I don't feel good. She said, I'm running a little bit of a fever, a little low-grade fever, and, I just don't feel good. And so we tested her, and she was positive. And so the loss of taste and smell, that's been a big one. Headache. If you're not a person that has headaches, then you start having headache and it lasts for days, then you need to be tested, because body aches is a big thing. But and cough and that kind of thing, a lot of people don't cough. There's some of them that are not coughing,
That don't cough.
There's a lot of asymptomatic people too.
Yeah, we have tested, like spouses of people who got it and that didn't have symptoms, and they, some of them came up positive. Yeah, and so the other thing is, we had like a mom and a dad that were both positive, and they's like, we got 4 kids, and I want every one of them tested. no, y'all all just stay home.
Right.
You know, just assume everybody is positive,
Right.
and everybody stay home. You know, everybody self-quarantine. And you know, the 14 days, and that, you know, it's just this thing that is hard to understand because it's changing and it's different for everybody. And you know, they've had people who after 14 days they still positive, after a month they still positive, you know.
See, wow.
You know, and so you know, it's different for everybody. You know, it's different for everybody. And so, you know, and there's no predictors of who's going to get sick with it. You know,
Right.
you know, most of the people that I've seen so far, none of them have gotten really sick. Now, I'll back that up because before it came out about COVID, I was seeing some people back in February.
Me and I were sick.
I had,
January.
you know, one patient that I was sure
That had it.
he had it,
Mm-hmm.
but he ended up dying.
Oh, wow.
Goodness. Wow.
You know, he was sick for weeks, you know, in and out of the hospital, and, you know, and he died, you know, so, you know, and then, you know, when this came out, you know, just looking back in retrospect, I think that could have been one that had it. You know.
So wasn't it some kind of medicine that it was a real short supply of it, but if it was given to somebody who were in like those bad spots of the virus, like where, you know, they're in really bad condition, it was able to help like clear it out of the system a little bit faster.
Well, there's been several medicines that they've been using. The you know, the first, you know, the hydrochloroquine, you know, the Plaquenil, which they use for connective tissue disorders like lupus and that kind of thing. You know, that did not work. And you know, that's the one that Donald Trump was promoting, you know. That did not work. And they also had an antiviral medication that seemed to help some patients. And now they're using dexamethasone, which is a steroid now that is helping, you know. And so, and that also what's helping in, you know, in the hospitals and with patients who have the pneumonia with it is, you know, laying on their stomachs. And so they call pronating the patients, you know, having them lay on their stomachs. And so that helps. But those are the kind of things that we're seeing. And, you know, and in the beginning, you know, they felt that this was a disease that was mainly going to affect those that were older and those that had comorbid conditions. But what we're finding now, and, you know, they think it's because, you know, of the mobilization of the younger people. You know, the younger people moving around more, they're working and they're mingling and that kind of thing. The mean age now is 37.
Wow.
You know, and so we're seeing a lot more younger people. And you know, I have a cousin, she was supposed to be here today, but she couldn't make it. But I was really looking for her input because she works in the hospital in the ICUs. You know, she manages 2 ICUs, and they're dealing with COVID patients now. And she said that, you know, they've had young people, and, you know, and there have been young people who've died.
Wow.
You know, so
Yeah.
so we just.
It's hard, like with they have to be put on a ventilator and everything.
Yeah, and so so this is a serious health crisis. It's not a joke. It's not a hoax. You know, the numbers aren't lying. You know, they're saying that, you know, well, they're just doing more testing. No, hospitalizations are going up. That means people are sicker. And you just don't get in the hospital for no reason nowadays.
Right.
You know, you just don't get in the hospital for any reason. You know, you have to be sick to get in the hospital. And so those numbers are going up. And we have several hot spots, you know, states that are in real trouble, like New York was. Number one is Texas. Number two, you know, is Florida and then Arizona. But also other states in the South and other places their numbers are going up, you know, and increasing rapidly. You know, we just, go ahead.
Well, I heard one way that ain't on to solve that is just to slow down testing, just say, you know what, don't test them. That's what I heard from this guy on TV.
Okay, you know, well, that's idiotic.
Right.
You know, and you know, you know that you know that person, you know, may have some, you know, mental illness kicking in the background, but you know, we can't be ignorant like that.
Right.
You know, we got to locate the disease, to isolate the people, to get them under quarantine, to try to slow down the spread of this stuff. You know, and we got to, you know, we have to social distance. We have to, you know, cut down the number of people in small gatherings. We gotta cut this stuff. We got to wear our masks in public. You know, it's just, it's gotten too serious. I mean, when other countries, you know, the EU, the European Union, just announced that Americans are banned from their countries because of our erratic approach and our ununified approach to containing and managing the pandemic. And so, you know, that's a very serious statement.
It is,
you know,
very much so.
And, you know, we used to be the leaders in this stuff, but our government hasn't taken the advice of the medical and the scientific world. You know, everything is a hoax, everything is overrated. You know, we got to get the economy up. You know, well, there's going to be no use in an economy when you got all these sick people.
I mean,
we're taxing the, you know, we're taxing the hospitals and healthcare environments, and if we don't contain this, I mean, we lost a lot of doctors and nurses. We lost a lot of doctors and nurses, you know, with New York and some of the other places. You know, a lot of doctors and nurses, they died. You know. And, you know, and so, you know, we got to get a unified approach to this, and you know, it's time out for Republicans versus Democrat, you know, and using wearing masks as a political thing. It's not a political thing, you know. It's a public health thing, and it has to happen in order for us to get this thing under control. You know, you know, it's not about violating your rights and all this kind of stuff. That has nothing to do with it. We're trying to control a global pandemic.
Very much. Well, we had talked back when I was going through a career shift, and you said something to me, it stuck out, and I use it even to this day when I was making that decision. The three things that matter is where you've been, your experiences, where you're at currently, and where you're going. So with all that you've gained from all of this, what would you say to someone that's looking to come into the medical industry? Because, you know, y'all are superheroes now, so this is serious, and what would you tell them?
Well, you know, make sure you're committed, you know, and make sure you care, you know, because, you know, you're going to have to be, you know, because it's tough. You know, once upon a time, doctors were rich, you know. This is not a thing where you're gonna get rich no more.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
because we are very much controlled on how much money we can make. You know, very much controlled, and things get tighter every day. You're having to do more for less money, and so you make sure that this is your calling, that you're committed, and that this is a passion for you, and that you sincerely care about people. When I'm treating patients, I see them as my brothers, my uncles, my
Absolutely.
granddaddy, my mama, you know, my children. I see them as I do family, and I treat people the way I would want to treat my family. Yeah, I would want my family treated.
Ooh, you said
know.
that.
I mean, that's
And that's how people should look at their work. You know, it shouldn't be something. That's awesome.
Switching gears a little bit. Like I want to lighten the mood.
I was about to do that.
I'm sorry.
I got an outline.
I'm sorry.
I mean, this is my show. Nah, I'm just playing. I'm just playing.
I just wanted to ask our other guest, Michael Reeves, like how have you been dealing with things at the studio? How you had to adjust in your business, in your field, to get through these times? How much of an effect have you seen?
In my business, for the most part, it's individuals. It's not like a lot of. It's not a group activity when the production and everything. This is about as most people as you know it will be in a setting. So the podcast thing is kind of shifted a little bit. People are, you know, I encourage them to use their mask if they, you know, want to. I know it's kind of difficult to have conversations like this when people are sitting across from the table and can't read anybody's emotions or faces or anything like that. So that has been affected. Otherwise, we've been affected pretty good. Everybody got their stimulus checks and they ain't got nothing to do, so they being artists. They all speaking to me. They all artists right now. That's right. They are inspired.
all right.
So I've been busy. I've been almost too busy to take part in, you know, the important things that's going on. But I have been able to, you know, contribute a bit. I've been seeing all the you know, the protests and everything, and everybody's chanting what God rest his soul, George Floyd's last words were "where I can't breathe," which it is powerful in that sense that, you know, hearing that, and it made a lot of people feel a whole lot different than a lot of the events that have happened before in the lights, you know, where, you know, it wasn't as much of a movement behind, but I always choose, no matter what I'm doing, to gravitate towards positive.
Right.
And so I can't walk around chanting I can't breathe, because I will breathe. I'm not gonna let people stop me. So this is, you know, my contribution to that cause, but I haven't been able to like get out and do a lot of protesting and things like that. But a lot of the musicians that have come in have been this is like where their art is taking them, you know, with the current events, with what's going on with COVID, people being stuck in the house, people not being able to interact with each other like normal, you know, the things that we took for granted for all our lives, being able to have family gatherings and things like that. So people are expressing it more in their art, and that's where I am right now. As far as like other things in the music business, as most musicians and artists know, they make their money from shows, you know, and so you know, a lot of artists, they'll take these deals or whatever with record companies, knowing that the record company is going to get most of the money from the sales and everything, but they can go and recoup all of what they want, by gaining that popularity through their network, and then using that popularity to go and do shows, and they get paid from the shows, and usually that's their money for them to have, pay their people with. So that's been affected. It's kind of different to where people have to be more creative on how to reach their fans now. Yeah, it's a lot of social media. DJs and everybody understand now, like all of their events are cut off, so they're all like trying to find ways to go live with the sets and have people at home. Have people at home still interact with them in some type of way. So it's been interesting and super busy for me. I guess I'm probably about in the same busy field as a medical professional, trying to figure out, hey, how do we do this?
How do we adapt?
Yeah, how do we adapt?
You essential.
Yeah, we need entertainment. Still.
Because people are at home going crazy.
Yeah, it look like we're gonna have to homeschool those kids again next year.
Oh man,
don't say that.
Oh my goodness.
They gotta send them somewhere. They gotta send them somewhere. Lord, a walk-through center or something. Y'all come pick them up. Tell us where to drop a off at. Lord.
So if if I got any manufacturers who want to help in the I Can't Breathe T-shirt, also if you in the business of making plastic suits for little children, I would gladly invest into your business.
Yeah, definitely.
Awesome.
Definitely.
Your venture.
Plug.
Well, Mike, you said something about you're not much of a protester.
Yes.
This is your contribution. I was, when these things start happening, we, me and my girlfriends, we start doing Zoom meetings on Friday night.
Okay.
So we get together on Zoom. We still do on a Zoom on Friday nights, and we, and when all this when the thing with George Floyd happened. And we're older, we're late 40s, 50s, 60s,
Mature.
And so and we're not hellraisers,
Right.
But I remember watching the movie The Butler.
Okay.
And he and his son were at odds because his son was, really radical. He was protesting and he was getting locked up and everything. And his dad was like, why you got to do this, And he was upset with him because of, his stance and his movement, And his dad worked in the White House, he was a butler in the White House, and he was professional and very, very stern and proper, and so he didn't want anybody to think that he raised a hellion, but I can't remember who gave him the revelation, whether it was his wife or somebody else in the movie, but they said both of you are needed to do what you do in order to promote Black people.
That's right.
Because they need to see us as professionals. They need to see us being good civilians, good citizens, but also, the protest is needed to move us forward. Somebody to fight for our rights.
Get their attention.
And, and so I think everybody has to affect the movement in their own sphere of influence.
In their lane.
I agree.
Yeah.
And so I think it takes all kinds and everybody's input to move us forward, in whatever capacity that they can do that in. We've even started a group where we're promoting the next generation, and we're doing some mentoring and some philanthropy, and we're going out doing voter registration. We're campaigning.
Yes, I know that's right.
I always tell everybody, in the world of politics, So they like, so who are you? I said, I'm just a concerned citizen, you know.
Best way to say it.
And you know, I describe myself as a kickstand. You know, I'm not the leader out front, but I'm gonna prop that person up.
That's right.
You know,
Exactly. That's my language.
yeah,
I like that.
Yeah.
Kickstand. Yes. Yes.
yeah.
Okay.
So yeah.
Yeah, we all have to use our different talents to move this thing forward, you know.
Yeah.
And like, we can't get mad at the fellow person beside us that's not, you know, going ham because, you know, they're not doing what we're doing. But if you just let people choose their avenue, like
Right.
it takes a village to raise a child, it's gonna take all of us using our talents to push our culture forward and push
Yeah,
that's right.
our race forward, you know.
Mhm.
And these people already think that we about to take everything over. We're gonna become the oppressors and the supremacists, and that's not the case.
No,
Right.
You know, we just want
we
our
just
rights,
we just
you know?
want we want to be treated equally.
Absolutely.
You know,
They always
have
got
it.
4, 5 rights
Yeah.
by now. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
you know.
What you say? They're lucky. We're looking for equality, not revenge.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right.
We ain't even doing all that.
Yeah,
You know
I
what I'm
mean,
saying?
because you know, we all have, you know, white friends, and we don't consider ourselves any different than our white friends. In return, we don't want to be treated any differently
Right.
than our white friends.
They-
You know,
That's the part.
you know,
That's it.
and so you know, I was you know, asked by the newspaper to write an article on you know, my thoughts as an African American, you know, in the
Can you
community.
please share?
Yeah, so I'm just gonna share with you. You know, old people have to have a second set of eyes
It's
to
all
help
right.
out here. So
All right.
It's a
And we-
magnifying glass.
yeah. And the name of the article is "Not the Exception." I was asked to share with you my thoughts and feelings on some of the current events of today as an African American. I'm a 54-year-old woman who grew up right here in Lee County and have lived here all my life. I'm an American and I love my country. I was born poor and black. I was educated in public school. I was always smart, but I didn't always apply myself in school. My single mom worked in a factory 8 to 16 hours a day, 5 to 6 days a week, and she still didn't make enough money to care for me and my 4 siblings. So we were supplemented by public assistance of Medicaid and food stamps. While my mom worked, I was the parent at home who cooked, cleaned, and took care of my siblings. With this responsibility, I developed a nurturing and protective nature. Fast forward, I'm a proud graduate of Central Carolina Community College, North Carolina Central University, and Duke University. I now am a family nurse practitioner, make a decent living, and own my own practice. Although I was able to accomplish these things despite many obstacles, I am not the exception.
All right.
I am every poor black woman or child you may encounter in this community. Had not the hand of God been on my life and I had made different choices or fell on different circumstances, my life could have gone so differently. As black people, we don't normally dwell on racism, you know. We often experience it, sometimes daily, you know, snide remarks, stereotypical comments, being watched in stores, being looked over as next in line, and who are you to tell me attitudes, let alone the systemic racism we see in finance, housing, employment, education, legal systems, access to health care, and in underrepresentation in government. I could go on. We recognize it for what it is, and for a lot of us, we use it as motivation to excel, never saying a word. But there are those who didn't develop the same skills and are victims of it for various reasons. Some are angry, impoverished, imprisoned, uneducated, underemployed, and some just too weak to fight. Some victims just happen into racially motivated situations as sheep going to slaughter, as with the cases of Trayvon Martin, Michael Brown, Alton Sterling, Botham Jean, Ahmaud Arbery, Breonna Taylor, and George Floyd. But when we as Americans watch live as an African American man's life is so dehumanized, while the life is being choked out of him in an act of racism, while his concerned neighbors watch in horror and helplessness, their shouts of pleading for his life ignored as the racist, unbothered peers shielded him, while George Floyd called out for his mother with his dying breath. If we can discern anything other than cold-blooded murder, it's beyond belief. My nurturing and protective nature kicked in while watching this, and I felt eviscerated. Like it was my brother, my son, my uncle, and my father lying there. How, I just wonder, have we become so desensitized? Have we become so polarized? Have we become so politicized? Is the chasm so great that we can't agree on that being cold-blooded murder? When this happened, a scab of all the suppressed hurt, anger, and fatigue of being the victims of aforementioned racism was removed and is now a hemorrhaging, gaping wound. It also caused the African Americans who excelled despite racism and the ones who fell victims to feel the same thing at the same time. Black Lives Matter. We're tired. We can't breathe, and enough is enough. And as we are crying out at this travesty, some are appalled at our audacity to protest, calling it a rejection of authority, anarchy, and even the spirit of the Antichrist, I've heard. Meanwhile, there are others who are protesting wearing masks and staying at home and ignoring the local and scientific medical leadership so they can go to bars and nail salons in the midst of a global pandemic. I'm not a proponent of looting and burning buildings, but standing against these injustices is necessary.
That's right.
Even Dr. Martin Luther King said freedom is never voluntarily given by the oppressor. It must be demanded by the oppressed. Although when Colin Kaepernick peacefully protested these injustices by using his platform as an NFL star to bring attention to them, he was demonized and blackballed. He also fell victim to the racism he was fighting.
Yes, he did.
So we ended up here. Where do we go from here? I don't believe our fight is between white and black, but against spiritual wickedness in high places.
Yes.
The systems is where the fight is. I've always believed that now that I'm strengthened, that I should reach back and strengthen my brethren. We must strengthen our communities. We can't wait for others to do it. We must mobilize in order to help those in need. And most importantly, we must exercise the right that those before us prayed, fought, and died for in voting in our local, state, and federal elections every time. Let's be moved to action. If we are to march, let's march to the polls in early voting in great numbers in total peaceful silence so we can shout down the walls of Jericho come election day. Let this not be a moment, but a movement. That's the end of it.
That's so good. Yes.
Woo!
Wow.
You know, that was just, I have, I've been and heard some conversations that, have just been really hurtful, as an African American, to hear people say that, that the protests, is anarchy, that, it's the spirit of the Antichrist. How is it the spirit of the Antichrist when, a set of people who are being oppressed are crying out? Did you think that the way, some of our leaders are setting things up, and some of the things that they've said and some of the things that they supported, did you think it would not come to this?
Right.
And how they've sent out dog whistle signals to some of these white supremacists, to do some of the things that they're doing. Did they think that there would be no recourse,
Right.
to all this? I think, 3.5 years of this oppression brought us here, and we and I'm not talking about just African American people. We as a people got to take our country back.
Right.
We got to take
do.
our country back, and we have to unite these states again.
Yeah.
We got to unite these states again. It's time out for the agenda of us against them. We are stronger together. We have got to unify against all racism. And so the present regime has got to go.
Yeah.
It's got to go, and we got to make sure it happens. And I think we all need to encourage people to vote, and also we as African Americans, we got to groom some people to go and sit in the room.
Yeah, that's right. I agree. Yeah.
We are underrepresented,
Right.
and we
And
have to
everywhere.
start,
Yeah.
grooming some politicians to go and sit in the room. And because if people don't know what our needs are, what our thoughts are, and what we can contribute, then we're ignored.
Exactly. It's overlooked.
You
It's
know,
not even
yeah.
a thought.
Out of sight, out of
So
mind.
Yeah.
so we have to bring that before them, and so that's my way of fighting.
And that's good. I
You
love
know.
that.
As
As far as like politics and all of that, how did you get like so involved with it? Like as far as who you know to vote for and things like that, because it's a lot. If you look at it, I don't know where to start. Honestly, I want to get more involved in the local elections because I'll be the first to say I didn't really care about it before, but now I do. So, what would you suggest, or you might, do y'all have any?
I would say start with one, because it is overwhelming to take a look at a ballot, because a lot of times you don't know what
Right.
80% of that stuff is on the ballot unless you spend your everyday studying politics. So I would say start with one, and then as with anything, the more you do something, the better you understand it, and you are able to know how to do it or utilize it or things like that. So I would say start with one.
To whatever party you're part of, you go to the monthly meetings, because a lot of times they introduce the candidates, that are running for whatever office at that time. There's different elections, and so they have candidates to come and speak to the groups, and sometimes they have like conventions where we had one, I can't remember which month we had it in, and we had it at the courthouse, and all like the candidates from all over the state for that party came, and some of the candidates were running for the same office, but they but they all came and spoke and told us what their platform was. And so that's how you know, some ways you get to know the candidates better, and attending those meetings, and you can always go to, you know, whatever party you want, or you can do it with both, you know, go to their Facebook pages or their websites and find out more about the candidates, you know, read about the candidates, whatnot. But that's a way of getting involved. That's how I start getting involved. And then, you know, and then they also tell you what's going on you want to know what's going on in your local government.
Right.
Because, you know,
that's what affects you directly.
Yeah, you know, especially in these small towns, and your school board, how they treating your kids.
Exactly.
You know, who gets funding.
Yes.
You know, where the funding's going, you know.
Right.
And, you know, your sheriff, you want to know about them.
Right.
Your city council.
Yes.
You know, you want to know. You want to know who these people are and what their thoughts are.
Exactly.
And go to some of them city council meetings so that you know what's going on. And you may be qualified. You might find yourself qualified for a local office. You know,
thought about it.
Interest in a local office. You know, most of the people, they're lay people.
Yeah.
You know, they're not politicians. They're lay people, and they just have an interest in, you know, whatever field, and they apply for the office. And you know, get involved. We need to get some people in the rooms.
Exactly.
You know, it's time out for us being involved, and then we sit back and complain about the decisions being made. You know,
exactly.
And
I don't hear it. Like, no,
That's something I tell my son. I said, if you ain't gonna do nothing about it, don't complain about it.
That's right.
You're not gonna be. I mean, this had nothing to do with politics.
No,
It
but
was just something in
it's
general.
true.
If you're not gonna make any effort to change something, then don't complain about it.
Right.
You just talking to hear yourself speak
Right.
in that point.
Yeah.
If you ain't gonna take it serious, why should
I?
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, and so because, you know, you may have one or no black people on some of these boards, and and they're making decisions. We're not even going to the meetings, you know, that's held publicly.
Right.
And so we're not even out in the audience, you know, because a politician was talking the other night at the meeting, and it wasn't a political meeting. This was a meeting we were having, you know, trying to strategize for how we're going to handle, you know, race relations here in Lee County. And you know, he was speaking about some things, and you know, and I realized, you know, they're ignoring him because he ain't got no help in the room. You know, he needs some of us sitting out, because you know, people are less apt to show racism and show their you know, racist thoughts and attitudes when there's some people there to check them, or some people to judge them.
That's
you know,
right. You're right about
you
that.
know, so you know, if we're not in the room, and then, you know, if there's one African American politician in the room, if he ain't got nobody amen and back him up, and they can ignore him.
Yeah, it's kind of like,
You know, he just become, you know, a token.
Right.
You know.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's how, you know, I just started being concerned, you know, about our country, about our county, about our town, and, you know, just started getting involved. And I've been canvassing and folding, putting stuff in envelopes and folding brochures and doing this stuff for years now.
Yeah.
So, you know, the offices always need help, and they're always glad that people volunteer.
Nice.
And so you were going to talk about balance.
Yes. Since he threw off my whole little flow. Jesus. Jesus. Oh, yes. So you had said earlier, you know, you have this group of women, which is awesome. that you all like travel and do things. So can you tell us a little bit about like what you all do, like with your Zoom meetings and travel and things in the community?
Yeah, we have, I mean, we all are professional women from different areas.
Exactly. In your own lane. Like
From
That's
different
awesome.
areas, and we first got together with church, and we got together and we were going to take a trip, and we went on one trip, and then it kind of grew from there. And different people go on the trip every year. Some can't make it this year, and others go, and that kind of thing. And we've had some awesome times together, and it's just good sometimes to have some sisterhood.
Absolutely. So important.
Most of the women are married. There's a few that are single, and they travel with their husbands too. But with the girls thing, we can say what we want to say. We can talk to each other.
It's like the beauty shop on wheels.
Yeah. Yeah, kind of like that.
Yeah, basically.
And usually, one night on the trip, we have that little powwow meeting, where people bring their issues or concern or prayer requests, and we just have a good old, we laugh a lot and cry and, all our little kumbaya stuff, which is necessary and cleansing.
It is.
Yes.
And
yeah.
too. That's right.
And so we also do other stuff, not just traveling.
Right.
We try to find ways to entertain ourselves, at least monthly or so, and that's been good. And then since COVID started and we don't get to see each other no more, we meet on Friday nights with Zoom. Nice. And so we're still planning and still doing stuff with that even. So
that's awesome. Great.
So, may I?
Go ahead, Brandon.
So Mike, like we're moving forward with being active in the Black Lives Matter movement, or the force that is being put together now to push our culture forward. Like, what do you think is some key places to be, or some things that you could learn, or places to go to learn to be more a part of the movement, as far as like, other than like, going to Black Lives Matter?
I don't know. I'm trying to figure it out myself, to be honest with you, because even with the Blackout 2020, nobody's supposed to be buying anything on certain days. You're supposed to be doing certain things. I feel like I was a bit lost. Like I got the first day, July was 17, right? 7, July 7th. July 7th. Ain't nobody supposed to be buying nothing. But then there was like nothing unless it's black owned business. And then there was more information about, okay, here's some other dates that we should be. So I started, last couple of days just trying to figure out where all this information is centralized, if there is a centralized location, because I went to like the hashtag Blackout 2020, and it was like, this is not our movement. It's a whole website from Blackout like 2 or 3 years ago, and they were like, this is not our movement. Look up this guy. He's got all this information, and they like put up this page just to say this server is getting overwhelmed with information that we don't have. Looking for information we don't have. So I'm trying to figure it out myself, to be honest with you. And I wish I had an answer for that. I mean, you have a more solid answer on?
Well, like, is there a centralized place on the internet? Like, was it a certain person that
No, I haven't.
Stuff?
I haven't really followed a centralized place. I have been doing the green piece of paper.
Yeah.
And I do plan to do, the July 7th blackout to support that. But as far as, the movement is concerned, I still feel the same way. We should do what we can in our sphere of influence to further the development of Black people and racial equality. And I still think, we need to get involved in our local and our state and our federal government. I think that is key, because I think, like I said in here, is that we got to break the systems. There's systems, we got to unlock those keys and break that. That's where we got to do it. Do it at. I mean, lynching is still legal.
Yeah, it is.
And they're arguing now about the no lynching law. I mean, in the 21st century. I mean, and this I don't think we need to do this. What was the law when Trayvon Martin stand your ground? I think that ought to be illegal, because give a guy a badge, and he go out and like those guys did Ahmaud Arbery in Georgia and
basically
hunting
them
niggas.
down.
That's what it is. That's what they did.
What it is. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
It makes you real uncomfortable that they had the courage to do it. They wasn't holding they just
they didn't interfere in recourse.
No,
Exactly.
They knew that they was in the right, and it took for three, I think it was like 2 or 3 DAs turned it down.
Right.
And the lawyer, they had to ask the lawyer to release the tape into the public for them to actually get behind it. And now they want to lock everybody up. Now that they're on the national public
news,
face of everything, now they want to do something about it.
Yeah.
So this stuff's been happening
while we're so upset and why we're going
out.
And these are the only ones we know about.
Right.
Exactly.
Right. There was a woman in Wilmington who the whole mob of white guys, including a sheriff deputy, who went to her house looking for her son, trying to get to her son. And the thing was it was mistaken identity. They were at the wrong house, and they trying they were trying to get in her house, guns out loaded, might as well be carrying torches. Carrying torches. There was a whole mob of them. And they were trying to get in the house, and she stepped in front of her son. And she recognized one of the people in the crowd and called him out, said, "You know who I am."
Right.
And
exactly.
And they realized then they were at the wrong house, but they were when her son was at the door, they were getting ready to do something to her son. And just think of what would have happened with that. They looking for a teenage white girl, and at the wrong house. And so and then when they figured out they was at the wrong house, like, oh, excuse the ring, like,
No.
You didn't just come here with a mob with guns loaded trying to beat down my door to get to my teenage son. Yeah. And so, but we're in the wrong.
Yeah, we're the angry ones. We're the aggressive ones. You know what I'm saying? We're the ones that.
This has been happening since the beginning of time, since we got brought over here inhumanely.
I think too, and that's crazy. A part of it.
It starts there, though.
That's a part of it. I think anybody can come into this country and be prosperous and build a business and go up and in society they're accepted, but because of the way we were socialized into this country as slaves, we're always thought as second-class citizens, and it's hard for some people to even see that difference. And I think that's where it comes from.
Yeah, exactly. There's a book, it's Inequality in America, I really want to read it. I cannot think of the author, but it talks about all that, talking about, you know, when we're supposed to get reparations and how had we had a level playing field, you know, if we would have gotten land back when we were supposed to, we could have came up different. But, you know, they own all the stuff. They, you know, it goes into all of that, but I really want to look at that book.
Yeah.
Now, I have a question for both of you. You raised two fine young black men. You know, I want your take on, like, what worries you the most, and what worries you now with having young black sons and directing them through this forest that we call America, and the systemic racism and the things that we are faced with every day.
Well, you know,
Forgive my son, you know,
yeah.
It'll be all right.
So, you know, what concerned me, you know, when I looked into Mike's eyes when he was born, is how am I going to provide, make a life for him, you know? How am I going to make his life better than mine, you know? Better than mine was, you know? And that was my main concern, you know. And then educating you, feeding you, clothing you, educating you, you know, making sure you were safe. And then, you know, as you grew into teenagers, you know, trying to keep you from falling victim to, you know, peer pressure and drugs and crime and, you know, getting girls pregnant, and you know, those are the fears, you know, absolutely. You have of a son, and gangs and gun violence, and you know, and then, you know, you want them to have a career, you want them to have families, to be able to live a long life, not to go to, you know, be incarcerated and caught up in that system, you know. And those are the kind of things that you concerned about and worried about, and you try to prevent, you know. And you talk to them, you try to live right before them, and you beat their butts.
Right? Yeah.
You take them to church, you teach them, you know, give them a God conscience, and you know, try to instill a good heart into them, because you want them to be good people, you know, and so those are the things that you kind of worry about, you know. And so that's my perspective. So Mike.
Oh, for me? For me, my biggest thing is giving my son understanding as early as I can. So I feel like if I have any bit of information, I want them to have it right now.
That's right.
So whenever they have any question about anything, I explain it to them as if I would want somebody to explain it to me.
Right.
So that they can have discernment and know how to operate out of not just operate out of emotions, but also operate out of understanding of how things work, so that they're not being taken advantage of, for one, because they didn't have, you know, just naivety. They didn't have knowledge. Because I know they're already smart. I see my kids doing things. They have the intelligence. You know, any kid jump out and learn how to ride his own bike or ride his own skateboard. You know, I mean, without anybody teaching them, they have understanding and wits. It's just, as I told my son, I was like, the difference between a person who has knowledge and a smart person is the person with the knowledge, the information, has more tools. You know, the person that's, you know, you can be smart, but you still got to figure out how to get things done. If you already have the you already have the knowledge of the thing and how it works, then it's easier for you to operate and go to the next level. So for me, it's making sure I give them as much information as I possibly can without any filters, because that way they can understand things and make their decisions based off of that knowledge. And, you know, because they're already smart, they can make wise decisions from early ages. And then on top of that, I do want my son, my older son at least, to be involved in politics as much as possible, so that he can, you know, like I said, I told him, if you're not gonna do anything about it, why complain?
Right.
You know, so he can be, you know, a beacon for change, and you know, a person to look up to in the community. I was able to grow up and been blessed enough to have some people that I was able to look up to that was the same color as me, and say, okay, well, that's a guy that I can, you know, say he is upright. You know, he stands behind what he says. He does what he says he's gonna do, and you know, people respect him. They might not like him, but they respect him. And the only reason why people don't like people is because they're not doing what they want to do.
Exactly.
But you know, he can still be effective and respected. So that's where I am with it.
I vote for him.
I
know this kid.
Oh yeah.
Very intelligent. Like,
Yeah.
I'd vote for him, definitely.
For sure. Well, thank y'all so much again.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Thank you for having us.
Yes.
Sure,
Yes.
appreciate it. And I'm sorry to introduce you in the beginning.
That's all right. See, I get to edit this thing, so I'll put it right there in front of myself.
There you go. There you go. Oh yeah.
Amazing,
Yep.
man.
Good.
Miss
Awesome.
Vonda Reives, aka Mommy.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, these are my two boys
Yes.
and my daughter-in-law over here, and my other daughter-in-law's watching us.
Yes.
Yeah.
What that look like? Ain't y'all ready to go?
So,
That's the manager. We got other appointments.
Right,
exactly.
right.
Exactly. Gotta go.
All right, you guys, thank you for joining us. And that's the show.
Awesome.